Hello, Newton County. This is Commissioner Elena Sanders, and today I'm coming to speak on the appeal. For those of you who were at the zoning appeals meeting on last night, you would have been made aware that the appeal was denied. So, let me speak a little bit about that. So, the appeal on last night, I, Commissioner Elena Sanders, appealed on behalf of the residents of District 3. So the residents of District 3 asked me to submit an appeal in regards to the development called Point Grande. Now, Point Grande is supposed to be developed by 2025, which is the development of 216 homes. Now, let me explain that. 216 apartment residential complexes that will be placed in front of Newton High School. And so, with me being asked to appeal that on behalf of the residents of District 3, we in Newton County don't have an ordinance where a commissioner cannot appeal on behalf of their district. So I asked Commissioner Sanders, who was asked by the residents of District 3, to appeal the decision of the planning board. And so I submitted the appeal before, and I don't know if you all know, this is some information you need to know. If the planning commission makes a decision, you have 10 days after that decision made by the planning board commission, the planning commissioners, to appeal it as residents of Newton County. You have until 10 days to appeal any decision that's made by the planning commission. Did y'all know that? Many residents did not know that. So I was asked on behalf of the residents of District 3, Commissioner Sanders, would you appeal this development on our behalf? And I broke it down on my PowerPoint in detail because before the planning for the zoning appeals, last night I had to go before the zoning appeals. I was the applicant that was speaking on behalf of my residents in District 3. As the representative with me to assist with the appeal, I was all for it because you put me in place to speak for you, and I had no problem. And again, Newton County has no ordinance or no policy where a commissioner cannot, an individual commissioner cannot appeal any made by the planning commission. And so you have 10 days to do that. So I want you all to be aware. I'm about education and informing the masses. So if there is a decision made by the planning commission, you have 10 days to appeal it. It's a cost of $150. I didn't have a problem paying that out of my pocket. No one gave me the funding. Commissioner Sanders paid for the funding, paid for the application out of my pocket, and I was the applicant. But I came on today because I was really concerned about that meeting. I was concerned because, and no ill will to the chair of the, thank you so much. I think you said that you've been on the board, zoning appeals board for 10 years. Please, I hope I didn't quote the amount of years or leave off some years. And so in the beginning of that meeting, it was, and it probably was the wording or whatever. And we also received a document that said how it was going to go, and the applicant can speak. Then those who oppose or who are for or against were able to speak for 10 minutes. That's what was written on that document. So we were going by what they gave us. And also what he stated was kind of sort of what was on the document. And I can understand when words may not come out the way they should. And I'm glad that we recorded it. But that was the issue, because if I would have known that as the applicant, that I only had 10 minutes to speak and the residents could not speak, I would have not taken the whole entire 10 minutes. And because each resident had a specific item they want to talk on, whether it was the environment. We had Silver Ridge Subdivision president and secretary who was there to vouch that they did not receive any notification that this development was coming. You had those from Neely Manor who was going to speak. And let me go back to Silver Ridge Subdivision. Anytime someone builds near that subdivision, which is near Harold Dobbs and Crowell Road, their water becomes contaminated. Black water comes out of their pipes. They want to speak on that. So they didn't even get the opportunity to speak on that because, I guess, of the miscommunication, how things were stated to us. There were so many components that were missed that we didn't get the opportunity to speak on. So I'm coming today to speak about it because once the decision was made, it was a 3-2 vote. District 1, 2, and 5 voted to the appeal. Districts 3 and 4, who understand, who lives in the area, they wanted to approve the appeal. And those came on, there's development called Point Grand that is had proposed to be building directly in front of Newton High School. And so we had concerns in regards to that because of with it being a school. Thank you so much. With it being a school, you have so many issues, and I brought up those points. And the District 2 commissioner, he wasn't there, but he was a zoning appeal board member. He wasn't there, but he's on the phone, but he was saying that some of the information could not be factual, but everything that I had was factual. The numbers came from the school board. I was going to be presenting on something else, and just so happened, I received the numbers from the school board. The numbers for the overcrowdedness came from the school board. Me speaking on the sunshine law, I have that in writing from our development services who stated that to me, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Everything I spoke on was factual. Nothing was talking out the side of my neck. Okay. Everybody should know by now that if I'm going to say something and I'm saying, provide you with those documents on where it came from. I'm not going to just be speaking out the side of my neck. Y'all should know me by now. The 3.5 years I've been in office, you know I'm going to pull out a receipt. So I just want to go over that property. Now the property is scheduled. Let me pull up my PowerPoint. We're going to present this PowerPoint here. I want to show you what I presented so you are aware of the denial. They denied the appeal, District 3. And so that property is scheduled to start building and be effective or be developed by 2025. But let me tell you why there's an issue. Let me share this screen. I'm going to show you exactly why that's a huge issue for us. Let's see PowerPoint here. Let me see if I can pull up my PowerPoint. Where's my PowerPoint presentation? 1 second here, you guys. Oh, I know I can just pull it from the tab. Give me a second here. Okay, here we go. I can just pull it from the tab. Forgot when you're dealing with StreamYard and all these other apps, you have to do it this way. Okay, here we go. Let me pull up this PowerPoint presentation, as you guys can see here. And I am going to make this slideshow a little bit bigger. All right, here we go. So yesterday I was appealing. The Point Grand, as you can see, subdivision that's supposed to be, well, actually, it's not a subdivision, y'all. It's apartment complexes. It's apartment homes with I think it's 2 bedrooms that can potentially bring thousands of people in front of a high school. Not only that, it will be utilizing the same roads that the high school will be utilizing. Drive. It's also expected to get to here. It's in front of Newton High, 216 residential units, which is an apartment complex. And it's also supposed to be a proposed restaurant and commercial spacing as well. So that was our huge concern because this is expected to be in front of a high school. The issue here in Newton County is our ordinances are so old and outdated that this was allowed in this space. We should have stricter ordinances in place to where you cannot build these type of residential apartment in front of a school. There is no school in Newton County, that has something similar to this. I have not even found a school in the state of Georgia that has this type of residential directly in front. Maybe across the street, but not directly in front where it affects the traffic flow and various things when it comes to the school. So as I mentioned, I brought up Newton High School, and it was just a great thing that was getting the facts of the capacity of Newton High School. I'm working for a conference that's coming up, but it kind of fit for this appeal. So we know Newton High School capacity is 2,500. They had the largest graduating class in the county, over 600 graduating students in 2024. The current enrollment, minusing the graduating students now, is 2,368, which is leaving you a capacity that's still remaining, leaving you space of 132 students. So we are 132 students away from it being back at capacity at Newton High School. Remember, they just graduated 600 plus students. So let's give you facts. Here in Newton County, and I'm bringing this up because when I first came in office, the first thing I kept hearing was the west side of Newton, the east side of Newton, the north side of District 3. I kept hearing those numbers. Even when my predecessor called me when I won, she said, please take care of the north side of District 3. And I had no idea that we was separating them up like gangs like that. I had no idea. So the west side of Newton and the east side of Newton, as you can see, Fairview Elementary, which is on Fairview Road, which is going to be in that, which is in that corridor of where Newton High School is located, is 5 students away from capacity. Live Oak Elementary is 2 students away from capacity. Clements Middle School is 163 students away. And as I told you, Newton High is 132 students away. Now let's go to the east side of Newton County. Now there's 24 schools in Newton County, 13 elementaries, grades pre-K, 5 middle schools, and we service a little bit almost near 19,000. But there's more schools that are in here, but we always compare the east to the west. And so I broke down those schools that actually feed into East Side High, which is your elementary and your middle school. So East Newton Elementary has a capacity of 625 students. But look at they would be at 43 students from capacity. 43 students from capacity. That's East School. Cousins Middle School enrolls enrollment now is 536, capacity of 850. They are 314 students away. As you can see, Eastside High enrollment is 1502. Their capacity 1,750, 248 students from reaching the capacity. The school system. Now, these are facts that came from the system and also research on our school district, which anybody can look up. It's not, I don't just bring up this information, like I said, pulling it out of my hats. This is actual factual information. Our school district is below the proficiency rate in reading and math in the state of Georgia. So we know that Newton, the west side of Newton, is your mostly dense. Most kids attend that area. In the Fairview corridor, you have 4 schools that surrounds it, and you want to bring this type of development in front of the school, which is the issue that we're having here. So this is an actual picture. I'm reading it now in your school district, but in Newton. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Teresa. Thank you so much, Contora. I appreciate it. So look at the picture. This is an actual picture of Exit 88, where they're trying to build it. Exit 88, you all, that's Almond Road, Caldwell Road. Some people say Crawl. I say Caldwell. I announce all the syllables. Hit it. So Caldwell Road. That's Exit 88, where they're proposing all of these properties. This is Exit 88. This picture came from an actual resident in Newton County, frustrated, who posted this on Nextdoor with multiple responses from you all. Now, Exit 88, residents currently experience delays on the Almond and Caldwell Road. Many of you who are coming from the city of Atlanta, wherever you may be, getting off this exit, sitting on the interstate, physically sitting on the interstate, because there is no exit ramp. And to get on to Caldwell Road or wherever you may be going, maybe whether you're turning left or whether you're turning right. Now, the key factor in regards to this is the construction widening of Caldwell Road is not scheduled until the year 2040. Did you hear what I said? 2040. Now, the RFP process, design process is going to start in 2037. But the physical construction of widening of Caldwell Road, which was on the SPLOST, remember you guys voted on the referendum of SPLOST for 2023. You voted for that, right? In 2022. That is not going to start until 2040. Why? Because the funds have to be accumulated. When you have a SPLOST, it doesn't instantly give you the funding. Now we can do bonding and some various things, but those funds have to be accumulated. So it will not start until 2040. We can get some grant money from the state and so forth. It will not start until 2040. So if you guys are looking for the widening of Caldwell Road to start tomorrow, it's not happening. It starts 2040. This came from the traffic study of the developer. The developer had a traffic study done, so I was able to pull this information out, their actual traffic study. During peak hours, Newton County residents face heavy traffic congestion. Residents living off Caldwell Road are unable, those individuals who've been staying on Caldwell Road, living on Caldwell Road for years, 30 plus years, can't even make a left turn to get out of their driveways. They have to go right, go to the light to Brown Bridge and maybe do a U-turn or whatever it has to be or whatever they have to do to get out of their actual driveways. That is a problem. Newton High School exits and entrances are available at Caldwell Road, Ramway, and Jack Neely. The proposed development will have two driveways that intersects. That means their driveways with this apartment are going to go into Ram Way, which is the actual road that's used for the buses, the students who drive to school, the staff, administrators, all of them going to be utilizing the same roads with 216 homes. You building directly in front of it, and you putting a bar rail. That was one of the residents said, I have a problem with that bar rail that separates and makes it like a penitentiary. That came from one of the residents. So this is what we're facing here, okay? Now, from the traffic study, this came from the traffic study of the developer. They were asked to do a traffic study. You had planning and zoning tabled it and asked for them to come back and do a traffic study, okay? So Cromwell Road, according to this traffic study, now not Commissioner Sanders, according to the traffic study, okay, accidents that are on that road, the total crashes in the past 5 years that are rear end collision is at 38%. 38%. In the last 5 years, 57% of the total crashes are angle collisions. As you can see, angle collisions are two vehicles that hit an angle, typically with one vehicle front striking the side of another. Then there's current intersection issues currently happen. The intersection of Carver Road and Ramway currently experience operational challenges. This came from the traffic study, especially with the eastbound left turns. Remember, I informed you that the residents that live on Carver Road cannot make a left turn. This issue is expected to persist until at least 2025. But guess what? The road will not be widened until 2040 with the RFP process, design process starting in 2037. The impact of this development being in front of Newton High and on Carver Road, remember, this came from the traffic study, not Commissioner Sanders. So I didn't understand when the zoning appeal member number 2, District 2, stated that the information was not factual. It came from the traffic study. The traffic study predicts that the development of Point Grande will further impact this intersection. Consequently, improvements to the intersection have been considered. Now, the issue with that, we have another road that's going to be affected. With a lot of you that live in District 3, stay off of Jack Neely. There are so many subdivisions off Jack Neely. You have the roundabout coming. Jack Neely intersects with Kirkland Road that has tons of subdivisions. Also, the newly apartment complex, apartment homes that we thought that was going to be what? We thought that was going to be purchase homes are now what? Rentals, okay? So I need y'all to understand where we're coming from. But I need to also tell you all, you're going to have to be proactive. We have hired a consultant to look over our ordinances. We actually approved that last year to have them look over our ordinances. As you heard from Development Services, if you were at the meeting last night, it was start in July, but it's not helping us right now. Our ordinances are outdated. There should have been ordinances in place about the usage of placing the future land use map in regards to having it in front of schools, in regards to allowing this to occur in front of schools, as well as the amount of developments in a certain area on a certain road. We have to update our ordinances. So this is how developments like this were able to get through because of various things. But we could have moved forward with the approval of the NIO and brought it to the Board of Commissioners. We could have. But unfortunately, that was a decision of the zoning appeals. It was a 3-2. Thank you, District 3 and District 4, for listening to the people. So let's go to Jack Neely. Now, Jack Neely, I'm going to tell you what's the special thing about Jack Neely that was in their traffic study. Okay, let me get a cup of my tea here. Although Jack Neely will be affected by this development, they're not responsible for making any improvements. So that will fall on you as the taxpayers, those in the county. So Jack Neely Road, similar to the intersection of Carl Road and Ramway. The intersection of Jack Neely Road and Ramway currently faces, this came from their traffic study, these are subject matter experts, operational challenges, particularly with the westbound, again, here we go, left turn expected to persist until 2025, okay? In contrast to Crowd Road and Ramway, the Point Grande development is not to significantly impact the Jack Neely Road, which means because it's not located near it, it doesn't have a full impact, and they're not responsible for anything that affects Jack Neely. Therefore, no improvements due to the development are warranted for Jack Neely, which means if this when this development is built, a lot of you are going to be utilizing Ramway and all of the roads at the school to get to Jack Neely, to get off of Crowell Road. That's what's going to happen. However, alternatives to the enhanced operation were assessed by the traffic study, the subject matter expert. There needs to be a single lane roundabout, traffic signal, always stop control. But that is not the responsibility of the developer. That'll be responsibility of you, the taxpayers. Now, in that traffic study, let's look at it a little bit farther. It says this development, Point Grande development, it's projected, I want you to see those numbers, to generate 4,464 new trips. That means once the development, the apartment complex is full. Now, we have now, because of the inflation of prices, we have multi-generational living, meaning that you now have grandmother, you have the daughter and their family, and sometimes you may have the cousins, which is, the extension of it. You have multi-generations who are living in homes now. It's supposed to be a 2-bedroom, but I'm pretty sure you're going to have more than 2 to 3 people living in these apartment complexes. Okay, so 2,232 entering and 2,232 exiting. As you can see right here, it's going to bring an additional almost 4,500 new trips on Crowell Road. That's not including the traffic that currently exists. That's not including the buses that's going to be coming during school time, the students that drive to the school. That's not including the faculty administration, the staff that all drive to Newton High School. Those who are also utilizing that same Crowell Road to get to the other schools or get to the Porterdale area. You have teachers that work in Newton County that work at some of these schools. Guess what? A lot of them don't live in Newton County. They're going to be utilizing those roads to get to those additional schools. Also, speaking to residents that live in District 1 that is closer to the District 3 area, Crowell Road is the only road that they can use to bypass Salem Road to get home. So those factors were not included. So as I stated, what will happen? Residents will use Jack Neely and Ramway more often to avoid Crowell Road, as you can see right here. Let's bring this to the next page. Important factors of this development. Hundreds of residents were not informed about the development meeting. Now, I have, and I'll pull up in a minute, in email, a conversation between myself, the development services director, and our county attorney was included on that email. She confirmed, because I had residents who stated that they did not see that small yard sign that was put out announcing this development was coming. I questioned that and asked our development services director about the difference of the difference of the zoning signs that have been used in the past, which are huge, tall, so you can see them, versus a small yard sign, somebody passing by. It is hard to stop on Crowell Road to get out of your car and look at a sign that's like a campaign yard sign. It is very hard unless it's colorful. That yard sign is white and it has writing on it. So what she informed me, there was issues with Public Works at that time where they could not get their normal signs they put up. So the average sign that was put up at the time, the residents had no idea there was a meeting coming. They had no idea. So Silver Ridge was not contacted. The developer stated, the person who represented the developer at the Planning Commission stated that he reached out to those subdivisions. The president of Silver Ridge subdivision and the secretary said, we never received a letter. Neely Manor never received a letter. Other homeowners said they never received any confirmation. Only 2 people showed up to that meeting because they were not informed. Here in District 3, if we're hearing about developments like this, those meetings will be packed, as you saw on Monday night. The signage, again, was not visible. Fire services. We don't have adequate fire stations, and we are lacking to cover this area. I had a meeting with our new fire chief in discussion, and I also spoke to the previous fire chiefs in regards to having that here in District 3. I, as your commissioner, have watched homes burned down to the ground. Give an example. There was a home in Cameron's Way that was on fire. I was in Atlanta at that time when a resident that lives there called me and said the house across the street or in the area in their subdivision is on fire. I came from Atlanta and showed up on the scene before fire services was able to show up on the scene. And I'm watching this house burn down to the ground. If you go in Cameron Way right now, they had to clear out the whole area and you can see the home. I don't know why it hasn't been fixed. I don't have them maybe in litigation or something of the insurance company. But the home that was next to it, you can see the siding. It's still there to this day. It's melted off. I've watched two houses, a house in the Enclave subdivision burn down that it just recently got finished being rebuilt to the ground, where fire services informed me. I was talking to the inspector on site. He said, Commissioner Sanders, if we would have got there 3 minutes late, all the homes on the block would have burned down. I would have been affected by the fire. That's how hot that fire was, and it was blazing. So that's an issue. Again, law enforcement. There is no document that states that we're going to have the manpower. Now that you have the school system that has to have law enforcement, we're going to have extensive law enforcement because of you're having rentals that's being placed in front of a school. That is a huge problem that we have right now. And let me keep on moving forward so I can show you a little bit more. Here we go. Now, the other issue, they were not happy with me bringing this up last night, but it is facts and it came from research, did not come from Commissioner Sanders. Sex trafficking, which is a big, huge issue in the state of Georgia because Georgia is a hub, and due to our airport system, sex trafficking is at a high rate in our area. Why do you think a lot of the residents actually voted against having a truck stop? It's a huge predator for sex trafficking. Also, bringing you some facts, and you can see my references, and you go look for them as well. That's why I was questioning why they said it was questionable. You have higher population density. More people in the area can lead to greater anonymity, facilitating illicit activities such as trafficking. You can see where the reference came from and where this information came from. Did not come out of my hat. Construction workers. Large scale of construction projects can bring in temporary workers, potentially increasing crime rates, including trafficking. You see where the reference came from. Economic disparities and vulnerability, gentrification. New developments can lead to economic disparities, creating vulnerable populations susceptible to exploitation. The reference is there. Business traffic, because this is supposed to be mixed use. So it's going to be restaurants and whatever it may put there. Once you approve a project, you got to make sure you keep watching it, because once it's approved for one thing, now we do have certain conditions that are in there, but you got to watch. You got to keep an eye on what's actually going to be placed there. So business traffic. Increased business traffic might include individuals who engage in or facilitate trafficking. Because guess what? You have students that walk to school. So they have to walk through this. There's an issue in regards to this. So what can Newton County, what should Newton County do to assist? We definitely need to get the school board to make sure that we don't have things like this in place and work on the ordinance. So strategic zoning laws, implement strict zoning laws that regulate the type of businesses allowed near schools. That's a huge issue. Sex trafficking, increase police presence. We already have a multitude were the annexation of the 391 acres that is looking to build 500 houses in that area. 500 houses in that area. That is a huge problem. That is a huge issue. Okay. So we're looking at all these various things that can affect you building in front of schools. Not only that, you're affecting the people that live in the area. And as I question, let me go on to my next slide so you guys can see. One thing I don't like is when people question or say that I'm telling a story or I'm lying. And I'll make sure I bring the facts. So the Sunshine Law, let me explain to you about the Sunshine Law. The Georgia Sunshine Law requires that meetings where a quorum of members who are authorized to vote on behalf of the public body discuss items for which they have the authority to vote. Just to break it down plain and clear. If you have 5 members on a board, okay, Board of Commissioners, give you an example. You have 5 members on the board of commissioners. A quorum is 3 members, 3 commissioners. 3 commissioners cannot be seen conversing together unless it's in a public meeting. Sometimes we do converse and talk, but we cannot talk about county business. We cannot talk about things that may be on the agenda or affect the county or how we're going to vote. So, in an email, it was an honest conversation. Don't blame our development service director, not one bit. It was an honest conversation. I was asking questions, but it was in the planning commission meeting. 3 planning commissioners before the meeting were unaware that they could not converse on county business to discuss a vote. This is the issue. You had 3 planning commissioners in the planning commission, on the planning commission and the planning commission meeting, that were conversing right before the meeting to discuss. And they it was honest. They had no idea why, because we don't give training to our planning commission. We don't give training to zoning appeals. We in Newton County need to start having training for our residents that we appoint to the board. We appoint people who are volunteering their time. They are actively engaged in the community. They give us service and we thank them for that, but we also need to assist them with training. Commissioners go to training and learn their position. I'm constantly going to training to make sure that I'm effective commissioner. There's training on parliamentary procedure. Last year, I took a whole entire class to freshen myself on Robert Rules 101. And when I came back to Newton County, I found a lot of things we were not doing right when it came to Robert Rules of Order. And so, in order for you to learn those various things, you have to be trained. So, we cannot fault the Planning Commission, but also legal was not even present at that meeting. They were not called to the meeting. And our county attorney even stated, we were not called to the meeting, Commissioner. We were not there. So, they could not advise the Planning Commission that they could not converse in a quorum and discuss how they were going to vote. And the planning commissioners and the commissioner felt that they had to approve that agenda item. That came directly to me. As I could show you, let me show you my email. Let me stop this sharing, and I'm going to get back to that email so you can see what that email stated. Yes, the health and safety is a crisis issue. So I'm going to go to my email and I'm going to show you exactly, because I was told that the sunshine law, what I mentioned, that was not factual. So I like to make sure I bring facts. Okay, I like to make sure that I'm bringing facts. So here's my email that was conversed with the development service director. As you see, I asked her about the residents stating there was a mention, there was a Zoom town hall on 328. How and where was it advertised? Okay, it says my stream was frozen. Okay, let me see where I left off. It said my stream was frozen. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so let me go back to where stating in regard for a while. So I'm not sure where I left off. If you could tell me where I left off. Okay, you left off at the email. Thank you so much. I was like, where did I leave off? Okay, so let me go back to the email. And I was speaking on the sunshine law. So I should have connected my laptop to the actual router. So, because StreamYard sometimes. Okay, remember I was stating that I emailed the development services. I think I broke all that down and I asked her these questions. She came back and informed me that 2 people actually attended. And so there was a question, actually, I think it was District 5 said something about the sunshine law. That is not factual or just possible or whatever. It wasn't true. I don't want to misquote him. And so I just want to show you where this came from. Okay. As you can see right here, and I'll make sure I'm not frozen so you guys can see it. Okay. There we go. As you can see right here, it stated clear as day. She said that districts 1, 5, and 3 were in a conversation. They were in a complete conversation to where there was a 3 paid commissioners conversing. Okay. That's what breaks the sunshine law. And then she also mentioned, let me get back to that PowerPoint. And then there was also a mention that she said districts 1, 3, and 5 were in a conversation. I rolled over and asked a question. It seemed they were discussing the potential decision outcome. I was asked what were possible decisions EC could make and the commission could make. My response was that the commission could either approve with conditions, deny, or table the petition. I was then asked what would happen if it was denied. I explained the applicant could appeal to the BOC. I asked what if the BOC denied it. District 5 individual that stated that the sunshine law been broken, it stated clearly that the district members from D1, D3, D5 were in a conversation as a quorum. She was called to ask a question. It seems they were discussing the potential decision outcome. Potential, if they voted a certain, they were discussing their vote. That breaks the sunshine law. So I have it in writing. I wouldn't bring this out of my hat. That's why I brought that up in the PowerPoint that the sunshine law was broken because I don't fault these planning commissioners. I don't fault them because we need to make sure that we have the same training because planning commissioners are sworn in just like commissioners, so they have to follow the same law. So we, as Newton County, I'm not over planning commission and development service. I have no control over that. We have an operation manager that reports to the board of commissioners who we appoint to handle operations. But what needs to happen is that there needs to be various training for those we appoint to the board. We appoint residents, which is great, which is wonderful. We know their stuff, we know various things, but we as commissioners can't be doing so much to coerce votes. So we try to make sure that those residents are making their decisions. So there needs to be some training for our board members on parliamentary procedures and what they can and cannot do when they're a part of the government and are serving in a capacity on a board that a vote does count. So it's really important that we do that. So I have no fault to those planning commissioners because there was no legal present at that meeting to inform them that they were out of order. So we can't fault what they do not know. But going forward, we need to make sure that we have people in place to make sure this doesn't happen again. So that's why I brought up the sunshine law. Excuse me. Going back to the screen, going back to my PowerPoint here. Let's see here. All right. So I left off with the sunshine law. Okay. And the questions that I left with, this was the second to the last slide, was which other schools in Newton County have similar developments directly in front of the school? None. There's none. So why do we think this is acceptable? Of course, yes, it's already zoned. It was changed in I want to say they said 2010. when they built the overlay, but they should have. But think about it. There was nothing put there in all those years, but now we're trying to do it right now in 2024 in front of a school. Will developers permit such development near their own residency? So I asked that question to the developers and the representatives that were there, and I asked that to the board. Would you want this in an area where your children or grandchildren are going to school and you have apartments directly, not across the street, directly on the same, using the same road of the school system? The property owners and lifelong residents relocating this other property. The people that used to own this property don't even live in District 3 anymore. All of Paradox is completely sold and gone. Former residents of District 3 have relocated within and outside the county to avoid extensive development. We have individuals who used to live in District 3 who have moved to other parts of the county because of the mass development, or have moved to other counties to avoid this situation. This is why the east side of Newton has been fighting. But I'm going to here to tell you, east side of Newton, unless those laws are changed, you're going to have the same problem that we're having here in District 3. So until those laws are changed, my suggestion was we go into building moratorium until those ordinances are corrected, until everything is corrected, the infrastructure and so forth, so we can make sure we're doing smart growth. I've been saying smart growth since I've been in office. I did not get that from anybody. I've been saying that forever. Smart growth is a common term that's used in the government as well as in the real estate industry. So smart growth is what we need to be going towards. As I stated, this came from next door. This was a post that's from April that's continuously going where people are adding comments after comments because they're upset with exit 88 Crawwell Road. They even blame the current commissioners. We were not here when this was changed. I've only been in office for 3.5 years. And so it takes an entire board to agree to change these ordinances. One commissioner, do not believe the hype. One commissioner cannot change it, nor can one commissioner change it in 1 year. If you're hearing all of that, it cannot be done. It has to be done right, because there's a process when you change ordinances. It has to be publicized to the public for a certain amount of time. You have to have a certain amount of hearings and so forth to hear from the public input. It cannot happen overnight. So there's a process by law that you have to follow in order to change ordinances. I can't just say today, I want to change this building ordinance right now. I moved to change it, and all of a sudden it's changed. No, there's laws on how we actually do this and how we move forward. So you, as residents here in Newton County, you need to stand up to whatever district that you live in, whoever represents you, to say, hey, I need y'all to get to these ordinances and get them changed immediately. We have paid for a consultant to come out and look at all of our ordinances here in Newton County. Okay. As Shana stated, that will not probably come back to us. I need to go back and listen to what she said at the meeting yesterday. She either said it will not come back to us until July, or it won't start until July. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to ask her that question, because if it won't start to July, then it's a whole process. And it's a possibility these ordinances probably won't be changed to the end of the year, because it's a whole process of advertising. So you need to talk to your commissioners. This is what needs to happen. I'm going to say this clearly. We need to go into a building moratorium. I'm drinking my tea, y'all. We need to go into a building moratorium. We need to stop building for a certain amount of time. I'm, as Elena Sanders, the taxpayer now, that actually resides in District 3. So the difference between local elected officials, we actually live in the area where this is happening. So when we make a decision, it affects me as well. Okay. So you need to talk to your commissioners, the entire board, including me. I've made the suggestion, and I've heard it from others here in the county. We need to go into a building moratorium. And all of that, going into a building moratorium, will give us enough time to get it right. We were in a moratorium for 2 years when I first came in office, and we corrected some of the acreage over here in District 3. That was done. We corrected in District, actually on the west side. And I can't just say District 3. It was It assisted also with the overlay. It was an increase. Before then, we were able to build a certain amount of single family homes on acres. It got changed during that time. And so now we need to go into a moratorium to make sure all of our ordinances are updated. Other counties have policies, ordinances in place that if a developer has not built that project in a certain amount of time, it stops it immediately. And guess what? They have to start all over from the beginning. Henry County has that in place. I can't think of the other county I was talking to. They have a 6 month. Henry County has a year. This other county I was speaking to, I want to say it was Fayette County. Forsyth County. I do remember where he's from. Forsyth County is 6 months. So if the developer has not moved forward with developing and everything they need to do within 6 months, it stops the project and they have to start all back over through the application process. Henry County, I was speaking to the chairwoman in Henry County when we were in training with ACCG, which a training class that was in January. And we were all conversing about the time limits of developments because we knew it was an issue. Henry County has 1 year limit that if you haven't moved forward, they see any development, it stops the process and you have to start all over from the beginning. We need these various things in place. Other counties have done it to make sure it's correct, but our ordinance has not been changed. I think she said since 2009. I want to say she said 9 or so, or been looked at, not fully changed, but been looked at since 2009. So this is Commissioner Sanders' presentation that I presented. If we would have known that I was the one speaking the whole 10 minutes, then I would have not, because you had residents speaking on the water conditions of the contamination every time they build in that area, that they are getting black water coming through their pipes. That's Silver Ridge subdivision. That happens in their area. You have people who are talking about the traffic and things that are happening when you're interrupting soil and so forth. Yes, we know that's the water authority's issue, but it's the whole county's issue. I know developers going to say that's the water authority issue. That's a school problem. No, it's the residents that live in this area, taxpayers. It is our problem. We have to make sure that we are providing the safety, the quality of life for our residents. It is so important. And so that's the problem I have when developers come in and say it's their problem. But I bet you, and I'm going to say this, you go to some developers' home, they don't have any of this around where they live. If they do, I'll be shocked. I'll stand corrected. But they would not allow this type of mass building where they live, but they'll put it on you. So it's important you all, you the people of Newton County, need to stand up, stay woke, stand up and speak out on what you want to see, because I'm here to tell you, east side of Newton, these policies, these ordinances are in place. You have some developments that are on right now, that are on the agenda right now. But because those ordinances have not been changed, Newton County would constantly stay in court. Newton County would constantly stay in court. And that is your tax dollars paying for these court fees and attorneys who are going to extend it to make sure they get paid and invoiced. So I just want you to understand how crucial this is, that you guys need to hold your official, because it takes 3 commissioners to move forward with processes, okay? So this is Commissioner Sanders bringing you some information. I just wanted to inform you about the denial of the appeal on yesterday and how it came forth. And I also want to come on to verify my receipts, because I was told that it was not factual. And I wanted to make sure that it was put out there that it did occur. So thank y'all so much for tuning in, and you be blessed.